5, 7, 1, 2, 3.
Hi, this is Pods and Ends, the junk drawer of pop culture and geek podcasts.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to Pods and Ends.
Alright.
Here with you today is your host with the most, me, Brian.
And me, Shelby.
It's Sophie.
And I'm Phil.
Yes.
Yeah! Chad Chatterson will also be here later.
And Stacy Stacerson.
Oh, hopefully not.
And it'll be lovely. But anyway, today's episode's going to be a little different. We're going to do all of our segments. We're going to do them inspired by a tweet because Soph is a social media junkie and can't stay off Twitter.
Can you stop?
So anyway, she introduced this tweet to us from Rob Trench, whoever that is, at Rob Trench. Go follow him, I guess. Anyway, it states the following. If you had to introduce someone to your taste in movies, what are 5 titles that you would screen for them? So what we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to run with it. We're going to do all of our regular segments with this whole 5 to introduce someone to your tastes idea in mind. So we're going to start with movies since that was the original tweet. Go to shows, books, songs, games, and sports. And without further ado.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats for the silver screen.
Soph, what are your 5 movies?
Okay. Thanks for that, Brian. So, my favourite movies, well, not favourite, like you say, get to know me, would be 1, Fellowship of the Ring, 2, The Matrix, 3, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, 4, The Force Awakens, and 5, Rush Hour. Discuss.
Now that you had me until Rush Hour, and then I was like, I don't know you anymore.
Can't help it. I love
the
that
other
film.
ones I can all see kind of going together, but then that's definitely an outlier.
Okay, so the thing with Rush Hour, like, as a kid, and there's like a pattern, hence why Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragons in that. Me and my brother used to be really, really into Hong Kong cinema stuff, so as a result of that, we were into all of Jackie Chan's movies, we had like The Young Master and all of that lot, and so we just basically, I don't know whether perhaps we did have a blood oath to watch like every Jackie Chan movie, but we did, and Rush Hour was one that we just kept coming back to. And even now I thought, oh, maybe it's just like a nostalgia thing, but I just think it's really funny. Especially he always puts outtakes in his films, doesn't he? So the outtakes are obviously hysterical, but yeah, I don't know, it is really stupid dumb humor, and for some reason that really works for me and really summarizes my sort of bad taste of humor. So yeah, that's why Rush Hour's there.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Rush Hour is a good movie. It's just, if someone would have asked me to put down the movie that I expect you to put down, that would never even have entered my mind.
That just shows.
So what about
Jackie Chan fan?
Yeah, okay, I like it. New little nugget of self-knowledge. Mm-hmm. So what about the Lord of the Rings? Is that your favorite one as well, or is that just the one that says who you are?
I don't know. I think maybe it does. Maybe it's sort of that kind of, optimism, beginning of something wonderful kind of vibe that's going on in it that sums me up as a person. He feels nodding next to me, obviously.
You also picked the beginning of the sequel trilogy. So are you a starter? Are you a non-finisher?
Yeah,
And the
Do you not
Matrix
finish
as well.
what you started?
Can't
Oh yeah,
finish what
true.
I
Matrix
started,
as well.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but that's because, I mean, come on, no one's going to pick the third Matrix film, are they? Let's be honest.
Honestly, to me, there is only one Matrix movie.
Yeah, although I did enjoy there were bits of the second one that I enjoyed, but we'll come back to all of that. So yeah, I think Fellowship is probably my favorite. I don't know why. I because there's obviously brilliant things in all of them, but Fellowship of the Ring, obviously, it's I love anything kind of fantasy and high fantasy, and it just absolutely hits the spot for me. The Force Awakens is really like, obviously as we know, we're all kind of Star Wars fans or ex-Star Wars fans on this podcast, depending on who you ask. So I grew up on the original trilogy, the prequels, but something for me with The Force Awakens is just like it would be the one that I reach to pretty much most. To me, that's what it reminds me of, the original trilogy enough. Whether that's because of I was going to say whether that's intentional or not, we'll see. But yeah, to me, it took everything that was great about the originals and kind of sort of dusted it off for a modern lens. And so yeah, to me, it's basically like the perfect kind of, not sci-fi, but sort of space fantasy film, really.
The genre bending space opera.
Yes.
Terrific. Okay. I think we should do this again, like recommend movies to each other based on what we think. But that's too much.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
Too much for right now.
Yeah.
Okay, Phil, what's your fiver?
Philip.
Inglorious Bastards,
Ooh, yes.
Ocean's 11,
Good.
Thor Ragnarok, Shutter Island,
Ooh.
and Cars.
In cars. Okay, Shutter Island. That is I did not expect. I don't think I've
Such a
ever
good
heard you
one.
talk about that movie. It is a good movie, but that's why Shutter Island? Do you like psychological thrillers? Is that what I'm supposed to read in from that?
I kind of like movies, like the other movies on my list, you probably don't think too much about after you've watched them. It's just a bit of like, oh, that was fun, or oh, that's interesting, etc. But Shutter Island, I think about fairly regularly, about what's the truth, what's not the truth. And there's various movies that could have made that list of actually thinking about them afterwards, but that's the one that I probably think about the most out of all of the movies, and sit here sometimes and I still don't know who's telling the truth in that story. But yeah,
I've heard that the novel makes it more obvious what the end is supposed to be, but I almost don't want to read it because I kind of like you said, the unknown aspect of it.
It's quite rare these days, isn't it?
it is, and I do wonder how DiCaprio didn't win an Oscar.
I was going to say, you are a big DiCaprio fan as well.
In that,
so that's-
yeah, in that,
I love him.
Yeah, I'm with you.
in
He's
that
one of those people
particular
that
film.
I feel like sometimes actors are just so good that to get an Oscar, they're just expecting you to excel based on your normal, which is better than most everybody else anyway. So it's, I don't know, but award shows in general are just kind of...
Well, he was always at risk of being a bit typecast as well, wasn't he? Because his sort of early films, he was this pretty boy kind of, and actually, like, no, dude can act. He's a really talented actor, and he's got a lot of range as well, and he's not underrated, obviously, because there's DiCaprio. But yeah, I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, really big fan of DiCaprio. So yeah, that's why Shutter Island's on there.
Now, what about Cars?
Well, I'm a big Disney fan. I could have put High School Musical in there. I could have put The Lion King. I could have put Jungle Book. But if I'm sat here and I'm flicking through TV and I think I'm going to watch a Disney movie today, Cars will be the Disney movie I watch. And I like motorsports. Like, I like F1, etc. And Lightning McQueen is just the best, honestly. I just love him. And yeah, it's by if I'm feeling sick or having a day where I'm not feeling myself and I need to put a movie on that's going to make me feel better, I would definitely put Cars on. So that's why it makes my list.
Interesting.
It's cute.
I like it. Good stuff. Now we should all sit and watch all these movies too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just 20 movie marathon.
I'm okay with that.
So many ideas. Anyway, okay. Shelby, what is your...
This was really hard. There's like a couple that I feel like I could switch like 2 movies in and out of the same slot.
Yeah. I don't... All my lists are half like introduce you to my taste and movies that I felt like I could not put on a list.
Right.
Yeah.
My first one is Annihilation.
Nice.
My second one is Tombstone.
Ooh.
Kill Bill.
Nice.
Gone Girl.
So, Kill Bill, are you...
I count it all as one big movie.
Okay. I agree.
Because, I mean, that's how it was shot, so...
Well, in that regard, you could do all
could
the Lord of the Rings
I know.
movies.
True.
But
Well-
still, I'm with you. Like the volume 1 and 2 it's really not. There's no differentiation in my mind between the two. It's just one long story.
So, okay, Gone Girl, which I struggled with that one. I was thinking Gone Girl or Nightcrawler. I went with Gone Girl.
I like Nightcrawler better, but
And then
I
Fellowship
see
of the Ring.
idea.
Nice.
Because I
Oh,
had to have some
wow.
sort of fantasy something in there. I couldn't not put
So-
a Lord of the Rings. It was either Fellowship or it was Return of the King. And I like Fellowship better. And I think same as Soph, it's this hopefulness before everything's just awful. And I mean, character introductions are fun.
That's true. I mean, look how many like origin story movies we have. So,
But I
clearly they're a
also
thing.
love Return of the King
Yeah.
specifically for Sam and Frodo. Just, yeah.
Yeah.
the bromance.
I mean, for sure. But, you bow to no one.
Oh, every time. It gets me every single time.
But Fellowship, it's so, I don't know, it's magical.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're just instantly captivated by this story.
Well, I think a lot of the times, as far as firsts go, since Soph basically picked most of her list. Oddly enough, you tend to remember where you start things like that more than where you end, I think. So you keep going back to like, oh man, I remember when I saw that the first time, and it's like the beginning. Like, oh, so awesome. And then you keep watching the movies, but going back to it, just like The Force Awakens, like it blew up at the cinema. People were so stoked for it. And then, whatever about The Last Jedi, but even before it came out, it didn't get as much hype as the first one, because it's the first, like starting something is always
More exciting.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I had to put Tombstone on there because
such a good
I
movie.
love Westerns, and that's probably my favorite Western. And
I don't have a Western on my list now, and I feel like I've done this completely wrong.
I love Westerns. I also like Pale Rider. I like Two Mules for Sister Sarah, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, all
The
the
Clint Eastwood
spaghetti westerns,
Spaghetti Westerns,
just like all
yes.
of them.
But Tombstone is probably my favorite, mostly for Doc Holliday.
Yeah, Tombstone's a really good movie.
And that kind of bleeds into why I chose Kill Bill. It has that Western feel, and I love Tarantino. And that would probably be my favorite Tarantino film.
Yeah, it's a modern Eastern take on a Western.
It's
like
it's both.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's it's an eccentric guy like Tarantino making a modern Western movie using Eastern influences.
Yeah.
But it's also a westernized version of a very Eastern premise.
Right.
So it's both. It's really strange.
It's Tarantino. I mean,
Yeah.
he's one of those guys that no one else makes movies like that.
Plus, Annihilation is just in its own category, and I don't even know how to explain it. But I think it's because I like stuff that's just really weird and unnerving. That's very different.
I would call that like middle sci-fi. I have a lot of what I'm going to refer to as like soft sci-fi. Not a lot. I have some. But anyway, I would call that middle. And then you have like high sci-fi things like Valerian and I don't know, Pacific Rim. That's kind of middle too.
Yeah. So that's my list.
That's good. I guess I should go now. Everyone, imagine your own drum roll because I'm not going to do it. I'm going to start with The Usual Suspects,
Oh, nice.
Return of the Jedi, Donnie Darko, The Goonies,
Oh.
and Clerks. So, I picked Usual Suspects because I love a good twist, and there is no twist in cinema better than Usual Suspects. Period. Game over. Don't even worry about it. It's the best. Doesn't get better. Like, if I haven't watched it for a while, I still get that, like, oh, this is when he comes. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a good movie, too. Like, the cast is amazing. Good story. Fun.
I've never seen it.
Oh, my God.
I've seen,
Podcast over. Go watch it.
I've seen the bit. Like, I've seen it. I know what happens.
Right.
But I've
At this
never
point,
sat and seen
it's... I feel like it's hard to watch and not have already been ruined on it. But it's still definitely worth watching. I'm disappointed in you having not seen it. But anyway, I digress. Unlike you guys, I like the end of things. So Return of the Jedi is my... I had to put a Star Wars movie, even though I'm...
It's complicated.
On the
That's your
it's definitely
status.
it's complicated with Star Wars right now. But I still love me some, especially OT Star Wars. That you can never pull that from my heart. And Return of the Jedi is just the culmination of everything. I guess it kind of is like liking that twist ending. You know what I mean? I like the end of things. I like seeing how things get tied up. So that's that. And then Donnie Darko is my soft sci-fi. It's basically like the world plus one little aspect, and then that one little aspect throws everything on its head and, you know, changes basically everything. Instead of, you know, the hard sci-fi where you go in space and there's aliens everywhere, which I also like. But there's something about that real world plus one little extra that I really like as far as storytelling. And then Goonies, man, that just is, I think of that as the all-encompassing 80s movies. Like, give me all the 80s movies. Give me Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, all the, like, 16 Candles, all that stuff. Give me all that stuff, and Goonies represents all that stuff for me because that's my favorite one.
Breakfast Club.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
All of it. Yep. The Goonies represents basically 80s movies and growing up and just loving watching stories. And then Clerks because I love Kevin Smith movies. So I guess this time I did put the first one, even though they're not really a series, but this was the first one he did. So yeah, there we go. That's me. Now you know what kind of movies I like.
So moving on.
Oh, I suppose. And next up, television shows.
Netflix and chill.
So throwing it back to you, Soph. Top 5 television shows.
I think this was the one I kind of I struggled the most with. I think it was really, really hard to like narrow down because there's just so much over the years, and so yeah, I'm just putting that out there as a caveat in case there's something in here that you go but we'll see.
Oh, sorry, your list is wrong.
Yeah, that's not you. I will say the most obvious one that I think will be
Jersey Shore.
Surprise to none of you guys. No, actually, it is a Game of Thrones. Don't know if you've heard of it.
Now?
This sort of weird little indie show that's on. Yeah, you know,
HBO.
it's on HBO. Yeah.
It's on the History Channel at midnight on Tuesdays.
Yeah, sci-fi, spelt with a Y twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Game of Thrones kind of represents the sort of everything you want in a fantasy, because it's actually pretty much my only fantasy TV series on here. Everything else has just been a little bit not quite there. You know, we've had like Merlin and Shannara Chronicles and stuff where it's just fallen short every time.
Do you get paid to bring that up?
I can't stop talking about it, honestly. Oh dear, it's got under my skin. But it is an example of it just where it falls short. Where Game of Thrones, it's everything you want it to be, and then some. When it comes to sort of fantasy and a book adaptation as well, because sometimes they can suck as well. And you know, I've always sort of said my hill that I'll die on is that the series is actually better than the books in this case. So yeah, Game of Thrones, it's like Phil says, it's pretty much, I think it is the best show on television at the moment. I certainly can't think of anything better. Maybe Peaky Blinders, but we'll see.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
It's a very different but the same. They both have that serious drama, violence vibe, but one is old mock reality and one is fantasy. So
yeah, and I like it when fantasy does go there with a bit. I think that's what Phil was trying to say on our last episode, of actually sometimes when you're in the mood for it and when it's called for, a bit of violence and, you know, sex and bad language is what you need. And sometimes you want something a little bit more wholesome, which is what brings me nicely to Battlestar Galactica. This was just like, I can't.
The old one, I assume, right? Not
no. I loved this series so much. It kind of encapsulates my love of sci-fi as well, because I'd say I watch more sci-fi series than fantasy actually. And for me, Battlestar just kind of really represents that. I'm not very good at putting my love for Battlestar into words, to be honest, but it was just...
Yeah, you actually don't bring it up very much.
No.
I often forget that you've even watched it.
Yeah, but literally,
You're a terrible Battlestar fan, just saying.
Yeah. Frack! But funny enough, you saying about liking the starts of things, Phil and I do have a tendency to not finish series, especially once they go on to... If they've already come out and we're like catching up, we seem to be not very good at finishing them. More Phil than me.
See, I'm good at finishing something that's done. I'm not good at continuing with something. If, like, Walking Dead would be the example.
Yeah.
I've quit that show like 3 times. And there's several other TV shows that I've started watching and then just fall off on. But if something's complete and I can just watch it all at once, I usually do finish that, unless I absolutely hate it.
Yeah, no, we don't. Well, Phil has got a very complicated relationship with it, haven't you? In that you like Narcos, where you're like, I like it too much and I don't want it to end, so therefore we stopped watching it, and that was.
I like the point where we stopped it
being over.
I like the point where we stopped it, and I don't like things getting taken too far, which we have discussed previously.
Yeah, but we did. But basically, the
fair.
point with this was Battlestar was something that we watched from start to finish, and I'm really pleased that we did, and it's
it
a
had its
really
highs
great
and its
show.
lows with me personally,
Yeah,
but
yeah. It's not a flawless series by any means, but
it's good.
yeah, it's really, really cracking. And then one that I would say is absolutely perfect, and I will accept no criticism of, is Firefly. That will.
It is good. I wouldn't call it perfect, but
Well,
yes, it's
you
good.
can't be right all the
Yikes.
time, can you? So it's fine. No, but love Firefly. I mean, I think we have talked about it on
Do
this
you think
show.
that... I think we've talked about this before, but do you think the fact that it got cut off
Yes.
keeps it more endeared to you than if it had gone all the way and finished?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah. It was that. It's
Kind of
bittersweet.
how I felt about Clone Wars too. And the more they add to Clone Wars, I'm like, just stop.
Just stop.
Just
Yeah.
leave it alone. It's fine.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. So
Carry on.
Firefly is, yeah.
Is Clone Wars your next one?
No, my next one's Gossip Girl.
Oh, nice.
So
XOXO.
I have a bit of a fondness for just, especially when if Phil works late a lot. Sometimes I just want to watch a show which is sort of about beautiful people not really doing very much and looking really good whilst doing it. That's kind of what I've had, like Gossip Girl. I've been through Pretty Little Liars. It's just kind of like trash TV. Even like Sex and the City, that kind of started it all for me. Although that was less beautiful people walking around on screen, obviously, but they still rocked their outfits.
I cannot stand that show.
It's just, I don't know. It's my absolute chill out TV stuff. Those kind of things, and yeah, I'm Gossip Girl. Like you say. Excellent.
Shelby and I both have the same chill out TV show, and it's not normal.
Nope.
It's weird, but anyway. We'll get to that.
Yeah, and then my last one was I had to pick an anime, because
Right. I
love
was
anime.
hoping you would.
Yes, and it took me a while to get to it, and then because my favourite anime is actually not very indicative of my tastes in anime, and that Fruits Basket was an unusual thing for me to like, because I'm not normally into that kind of, so I went with, yeah, so I went with Black Butler, as I think
good
we
one.
said on our anime episode, I like demons, and
We did. I remember.
Yeah.
The demonic.
there's a couple
It's
of
all
demons.
coming back to me.
Yeah, I like a bit of magic in my anime generally. Usually massive swords as well. I'm quite into massive swords. There aren't too many massive
Right.
swords in, but I like quite adult anime as well. Generally, but again, I can.
You say adult, but it's actually just made for teenagers.
Yeah, just sort of a bit of like blood splatter and stuff like that. But yeah, so actually, yeah, probably Black Butler best encapsulates my overall taste in anime, but it is not limited to that particular genre. And yeah, Sebastian rules.
It's true, he does.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Phyllis?
So I start with Ultimate Force.
Oh my god!
What is that?
Oh no!
It is a 4-season,
It's Phil's
6
Gossip Girl.
6 episodes, and it is based around the red section of the British SAS.
That sounds cool, right?
It is very dramatized.
No, I still don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, like the Navy SEALs,
Oh, okay.
but the Special Air Service, the SAS.
Yeah, that's our version
Got it.
of the Navy SEAls, isn't it?
And yeah, they go and do
Sounds
various
sassy.
things in different countries, and it's very dramatized and way over the top and ridiculous, and the acting's terrible.
So hard.
And the dialogue is terrible, but it is so good because it is so terrible.
Okay.
It's sort of like it'll be like shot in like we're in Kazakhstan or something, and then there's just like a phone box there that's clearly from the UK that they've just shot in some field in
Yeah.
Essex. Like,
They go all over the world, but they've quite clearly filmed it all in South Wales. And it's so bad, but it's so good. I literally could watch it any day of the week. Unfortunately, it got cut because of various terrorist attacks around the world, and they felt it wasn't appropriate to be filming these sort of things. So that was a shame.
Yeah. They were stopping terror threats and things, weren't
Yeah.
they, as part of that? Yeah.
Obviously, I got Game of Thrones because you got to. See 5 minutes ago when Sophie was talking about it. And then I've got MasterChef, The Professionals.
Nice.
So in the UK, we have a celebrity version, a normal people's version, and a professionals version. I like the professionals version because they basically get like head chefs from different restaurants and they compete against each other, or they get sous chefs or whatever, and they compete against each other, and it's scintillating telly. I do like cookery programs. I watch quite a lot of cookery programs, and it is my favourite out of all the cookery programs, so had to make my list. And it's got Marcus Waring, and
He is
I
dreamy.
definitely have a man crush on him.
It's really dreamy.
Yeah, he could cook my breakfast. And then I got Louis Theroux's Weird Weekends.
What's that?
So he is a British journalist who goes around and interviews different types of things. There's one on tonight that's about him drinking yourself to death, and he hits hard subjects. He's done various ones. I think he's been to Baltimore maybe, and they've got a big drugs problem, but he doesn't shy away from seeing the really inside stories, and he doesn't mind asking very difficult questions that most people wouldn't expect. I think the most recent one was about frat.
Frat parties.
Yeah,
and
frat
stuff,
parties
wasn't it?
and a big
I
like
remember you talking about
yes,
Yeah.
like sexual assault culture in
colleges,
in colleges and stuff, and he basically just this kiddie was saying all this stuff, and you could tell it was kind of a lie but not, and then he just goes in with a hard hitting question of why are you lying to me, and like the kid was not expecting someone to actually ask him that question, and then he goes, oh, I don't know why we're having this kind of questioning, and it's kind of cringe, but it's also really interesting the way that he's basically fearless. He is a Jewish guy, and he went and spent time in Alabama with some far right like extremists, and went to like rallies and stuff, so he puts himself in the mix of really difficult situations, but it's very entertaining telly, and
he's a very, very good journalist, isn't he? 'Cause
Yeah.
he's not overly aggressive with people, and they're really despicable people that he's sort of trying to get under the skin of, and he is trying to show you why they think the way they do, isn't he? But he's really good at sort of getting those probing questions, and he just makes people talk themselves into a horrendous. He trips them up, and but it's all them, yeah.
And then my final on my list would be the IT crowd. So I like half-hour comedies, and I like comedies that make you go behind your hands and cringe because they're so awkward.
Yeah.
See, I like that to a point, and then I'm like, I can't. Why are you doing this to me?
So yeah, like The Office was a really good.
Right.
It was really good. But then the IT crowd takes it to like it was pre-Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
I have to say that because the Big Bang, the K-pop band, just in case people get
Obviously,
confused.
a lot of people are thinking of.
And it's got loads of nerd jokes, and like the settings in the background, if you actually added extras on the DVD or something, there's a meaning to all the different computers they have in the background, and they have various things on the wall that have meanings. It's so nerdy and it's so ridiculous, and it's very British, and it's just literally so funny. I love every second of it. It's got Irish guy in it, and it's literally, even thinking about it just makes me so happy.
I know.
We've probably watched it about 15 times all the way through for like 5 series.
But it is weird. Like there is a reason why this is probably the first time you're hearing about it, because you have to start from the first episode, because it's almost they're almost an exaggeration, aren't they? Like of characters. They're not necessarily like, it's not a normal way that people would act in these. They're almost like caricatures, aren't they?
I'm just thinking about different things. Yeah.
I know, I can't, and so that's why we've been reluctant to recommend it to you guys, because it's a bit like, is it just too odd? But at the same time,
it's two guys.
Is it too Love Actually?
It's funnier.
It's two guys, and they get a woman
IT,
come in and who becomes their IT boss, but knows nothing about IT, and it is
they're in the basement.
The misfortunes of it all, and it is just the most brilliant program. But
yeah.
If
you're going to do it, start at episode 1, though. Don't sort of jump in halfway through, because you're a bit like, why are they talking like this?
So that's my list.
Yeah.
Who does that? Who starts in the middle of a...
Well, I don't know.
Crazy people, that's who. Not me. So Shelby would, that's... Okay, I understand why you warned me now. Okay. Speaking of Shelby, she is here and has her list to read right now.
I mean, this is tough, because I feel like I have a really wide range of things I like to watch on TV. But
TV is one of those things where you can just kind of like do anything. It's not like going to the movies where you're in for, 2 hours or something.
Right. I tried to pick 5 genres that I like the most, and there are a couple that are not on my list that I wish I had put, but also I didn't feel like it was appropriate, because I'm thinking of like groupings.
Because NC-17 rated X.
No.
inappropriate
No.
for the pod.
Anyway. The first one is The Good Place, because I like smart comedies. So stuff that really makes you think, but it's also really funny, and it still has like fart jokes.
That's
So
well played.
I mean, it's like really thoughtful. I mean, it's a show kind of about philosophy and ethics, but it's really funny to the point where they make like, stupid jokes. And then I had Peaky Blinders, because I love a good like dark gangster kind of show. And I feel like Game of Thrones fits into that, but not quite. It's kind of an outlier, and it's a category all of itself. Then I had Queer Eye, because I really like makeover shows. And I like this one because it also has more behind it than just that.
Yeah, it's makeover with substance.
So do you like house renovation shows as well?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, we used to really get into the tiny house show.
Tiny House was fun. I like House
Property
Hunters.
Brothers.
Property Brothers is good. Oh, what was that one?
What about Flippin' Vegas?
Love It or List It.
Oh, Love It or List It, yeah.
I loved Love It or List It.
We have some cool ones here, don't we, as well? We've got the Grand Designs ones where people get, like, they'll buy a plot of land and then they build, like, this spectacular house, and you kind of get to see it from start to finish, and that's always a cool one.
And
as well.
save enlisted properties as well.
Yeah. And what was that? Ground Force back in the day.
I love seeing some of the because Netflix like has shows like that from other countries and you can access them. It's really fun to watch those too.
Yeah.
And then I also like Shark Tank, because that's my go-to whenever I don't want to pick anything. Because I do like, I don't know, competition shows, but it's kind of different.
That's Dragon's Den, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I was
It's
just thinking
Dragon's
that.
Den in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And then my final one, I had to put some sort of anime, and I thought, well, if anything explains my taste, it's something kind of magical, but also has a slice of life feel. It would be Sailor Moon. Because it's just so cute.
It is so cute.
And corny.
Yeah.
Oh.
Honorable mention would be Parts Unknown, but
No,
I haven't been able to watch it since Anthony Bourdain passed away.
Oh.
Yeah, it's weird. But also, no honorable mentions.
Okay, fine.
So it's weird but doesn't count.
Yeah. Haha. Strike it from the record. Anyway, my turn now that we've waded through all the unimportant people.
Wow.
Sorry, I meant to say that in my head. I'm going to start with Bob's Burgers,
Yeah.
because that is the show, like, I can watch that anytime. I've probably seen the entire series at least twice. If it's on TV, I will watch it, even if I just saw the episode I'm watching the day before. It's just good, and I love it. And then I put 30 Rock,
Ooh.
because I like just kind of normal everyday life comedy, like your whole Seinfeld, whatever.
Cheers.
Like day in the life. Yeah, Cheers is great too.
Yeah.
Just comedies based on regular stuff. So, and 30 Rock's a really good example. I love Tina Fey. I've watched that one through at least twice. Good stuff. And then I'm going to put my anime not at the bottom of my list, because I actually like it and I didn't think of it as an afterthought.
Wow.
So
Saving the best to last.
yeah, which is not what you said. You're like, I guess I should put an anime.
That's exactly.
Anyway.
That was
It's like,
uncanny.
oh my god, I should definitely put anime in. Oh
It's
my
like
god.
listening to myself right now. It's uncanny.
So I picked Trigun because it's my favorite one. Like I said, I copped out a couple times on these things and picked favorites, so deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Trigun kind of it works as an idea of the type of anime I like. It's a short series. It's not an ongoing. That's generally what I enjoy. It has a very, like, I don't know, aloof but can be serious character that is what I consider myself as, and I do like to see myself in my character. So he's a very, like, Monkey D. Luffy type character who's just goofy and looks like he couldn't do anything right, and then when the time comes, he's like, bam. I'm the hero. Check it out. So, good stuff. Try again. Watch it. Then I also picked Shark Tank because, believe it or not, when she doesn't want to watch anything interesting, I end up watching the same thing that she does because we live in the same house, and that's how it works. Yep. But no, it's a weird, like, it's engaging, but it's one of those things where you don't have to really pay extreme attention to. So we'll put it on if we're, like, I'll be grading or something and she'll be watching it, or we're eating. We don't want to have to, like, actually pay attention.
Talk to each
but
other.
It's fun. I like seeing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Gosh, no.
I like seeing people's, like, ingenuity, though. Like, some of the products people come up there and try to pitch are, like, sometimes so simple that you get mad that you didn't think about it. And then they're so specific sometimes. And you're just like, why did you invent that?
Just
that literally does one tiny thing. That
going back to my list. On the IT crowd, they do a Shark Tank episode. Where they invent something and take it and pitch it, and it's good. It's good. It's worth a watch.
I'm sorry, it's just dying. Just thinking about.
They invent the perfect bra.
Nice.
And yeah, it's funny. I won't say anymore because I expect you to watch it.
No, you do now, yeah.
Perfect.
Right.
Done.
Okay. Continue with your list. Sorry.
It'll be on my list next time we do this. And last for me is Rick and Morty, which is kind of like Shelby was saying, smart comedy, but also has fart jokes. This is kind of that to the extreme. And I really like animated television. Obviously, 3 out of 5. But just like Bob's Burgers, if Rick and Morty's on, I'm like, oh yeah, what's up? I've probably seen that series through because it's not very long, about 3 times. Twice in order, probably a third time, just random episodes here and there. But good stuff. I really like it.
Nice.
It's fun to watch. Makes me feel good.
Good one.
Yeah, so show's down. Now we are moving into Soph's wheelhouse, talking about books.
Turn off the television. In fact, why don't you turn off all the lights except for the one over your favourite chair? It's time for Off the Shelf.
So, Soph, take it away.
Okay.
I like Master and Apprentice because I just got it today.
Because I got it for free. Did I mention that I get books for free?
This is not paid. This is not paid content here, people.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Soph.
Okay, but we will pick up with I feel like I like Star Wars books, and I feel like I can't not bring up a Star Wars book. So I will just go straight in with what I think is this took me this was a horrendous one to write, by the way, for me. I had about 10.
Is this the quintessential Star Wars novel? Is this what you're about to tell us?
Yeah, basically.
If you only read one Star Wars novel, read
Rule of Two by Drew Karpyshyn. Yeah. I went round in circles. I was like, oh, do I go for like the original Thrawn trilogy? Then I was thinking of the new canon and stuff. I just thought, for me, and for the stuff I want in Star Wars, the Darth Bane trilogy was basically perfect. And I absolutely loved it. I particularly like the Sith anyway. And I kind of like it when the Sith get to just unleash, because if you pit Sith against Jedi, like Darth Maul never really gets a chance to shine because, you know, he's up against Obi-Wan. Well, we know how that's going to go. Obi-Wan's going to survive. So where here you were put in a time where you didn't know what was going to happen to any of the so-called good guys. You're seeing it through the lens of a bad guy, which I really enjoy as well. You know, Darth Vader is pretty much my favourite Star Wars character. And I can't defend her in any way. It's like, no, she's evil. There's no reason for her behaviour at all. She's just an evil person. Bane, maybe not. Maybe there's a bit more going on there. Perhaps you could say there was a terrible childhood and things. But Xana's just an evil witch, and I love her for it. So so yeah, and I think also the fact that it did have such a like kick-ass female character in it, it was obviously very appealing to me. And then I also cannot talk about books and not put like the Harry Potter books in here, because for like so many of us, they are just defining. I actually, if I'd had to pick, I would say Prisoner of Azkaban, but that's mostly because I'm just sort of saying my favourite book there. Yes. But just because it's great, which is funny because I don't normally like time travel either, and yet Prisoner's there. I just thought it was it's just great.
I literally never think of it as
Yeah.
having time travel.
I know.
Like, it's so well done
Yes.
that it doesn't take away from everything else.
No, and it was focused on something very, very specific as well. And I just I think it was when the series really started to hit its stride, but at the same time, the stakes weren't astronomically high, because when you come to reread them, you're going to have to start preparing yourself for characters to start dying left, right, and centre. Where Prisoner had enough of the like tension and drama, but it still had that kind of just magical feel of Hogwarts, I think, which is what makes it the best, basically. And then moving into other, very much down a fantasy. Despite having something of an online reputation for the Star Wars books, my jam since I was reading has always been fantasy books. That's where I've always gone to, and I sort of escalated up from Harry Potter was sort of the start of fantasy, and then I kind of worked my way up. The next books that I kind of read that really sort of swung me into the genre was The Magician's Guild by Trudy Canavan. She's been around for a while now. She's got lots out, and she kind of sticks with this world. But she's what I think she's almost young adult. But she was in that time when like we didn't really have young adult. When I was growing up, there wasn't really like a young adult category, so she was always just in the adult books. But it's not gritty fantasy. It is sort of magicians with staves and robes and stuff like that. Is staves a word? Is it staves the plural of staffs? I'm not sure. But that was.
I think it is staves.
Yeah, I was going to say, correcting my English there. But yeah, and she's so to me that was kind of that much more accessible fantasy. And then as my next, again, they're kind of all series, but I would just sort of name the first one. Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb.
Again.
Although actually in this one, the Farseer trilogy, it would be the third one was my favourite. But Robin Hobb's books, she was kind of my first step then into what I would call like high fantasy, which I've had quite a lot. She kind of led me on to like George R.R. Martin, Raymond Feist, and Kate Elliott and all that lot. But Robin Hobb was still like, she just like knows how to move you in like ways. I'm still not over some of the stuff that's happened in her books. Just start Assassin's Apprentice and don't look back, basically, with her stuff. And she's also someone who writes in the first person really well as well, which I don't normally find. But she's just she's incredible. Her character Fitz, he is one of the most real characters that I've ever come across, and he is so human that it is maddening to read sometimes, because he makes dumb, stupid decisions sometimes, and you're just like, ah! But he's like, yeah, he's very, very human. He's very good. And then the last one to sort of say, me as a reader, I couldn't not say an Anne Rice book. I'd say if you had to sort of take away everything and I could only read one person for the rest of my life, it could potentially be Anne Rice. she lost her way a little bit, and she has brought it back again now with some of her, like, her werewolf books are pretty good now. But those early days of the Vampire Chronicles were just sensational. And I have Twilight to thank for it as well, because I read Twilight when I was about 18, and I was like, oh, there must be some better vampire books than this out there. Which then I picked up Anne Rice, so I will always be grateful for Twilight for that. I went for the Vampire Lestat, just because it's an incredible book. You're picking it up from Lestat, who's sort of like your antagonist in Interview with the Vampire, really, and then you get to flip everything and see it from his point of view. Lestat is just a fantastic character, and it's
I think
just
she's said before that he's her favorite too. So I think she's more invested when she writes him.
Yeah,
So I think that makes the things that he's in better, if that makes sense.
definitely. I do think Armand is pretty close for me as well, and Armand's book was great. Anne Rice just has this way. I love it when, I like it when she writes in present day, but she has got a way of writing in the past that I'm a bit like, what, were you there? Have you got memories of past lives? Because she writes so well.
Does. She's an odd duck.
She's incredible. Like, a lot of her stuff was in like really old school New Orleans, but then she goes back to like Renaissance Italy, and the sense of place that she can evoke in her books is just stunning. I was reading one of her books when we were in Florence on our honeymoon, and I was just like, oh my god, it's like we're here in an Anne Rice book. So yeah, Anne Rice rocks, basically.
Well said.
Thanks.
Phil, are you ready to follow up that amazing act?
Mine's very different.
Yeah, I reckon so.
So I've also got the Darth Bane trilogy.
Oh, wow.
Because
She made you read it.
yeah, and I really liked it. And out of all Star Wars, it's my favourite Star Wars, so that's why.
You're more of a Bane than Xana fan, aren't you?
It was because
He
Bane
definitely-
defeats everyone, including Xana.
Oh no, he didn't defeat Anna. Let's just like go back here a little bit. She did beat him in the end.
She
Spoiler alert.
encompassed him, and then he took over her insides.
No.
That's for another debate, for another day. But yeah, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, and I did enjoy it, and that's why it makes my list. So Alex
Sometimes
Ferguson,
I think that makes me like things better.
yeah,
Like if I go in either like with no expectations or bad expectations, and then it flips it on me, like that will make something stand out even more than something I think I'm gonna like and then do like.
yeah.
It was the first time we've ever read the same thing, pretty much, haven't we? Only the Dan Brown books. They're the only other things that we've both read. So it was really nice when you picked it up, and to hear Phil talking about characters that I was like, oh my god, he's reading it and he likes it and I like it too. Yay!
Yeah, so that's probably the reason it's on my list, because it brings me and Sophie closer together.
Ah.
Okay, the next on my list is Sir Alex Ferguson's autobiography.
I need to tell them who Sir Alex Ferguson is.
So
I was gonna say yeah. Please go on and explain who that is.
Sir Alex Ferguson is the football manager of Manchester United. He was the football manager. He's now retired. And it is his story from birth until they won the Champions League, which is kind of like the World Series of football for clubs. And it was very much the era of Manchester United where I was so engrossed in football that I knew everything that went on all the time. So pretty much like today, but it was I do like an autobiography, and it's the best one I've read, so that's why that makes my list.
Didn't he throw the boot at David Beckham?
Yeah,
because that's quite telling about Sir Alex as a person. Beckham was like the number one player.
He used to have like when his players went out on a Saturday night, he used to have spies out to make sure they weren't drinking too much and all sorts of stuff. He's a devious old dog, but he's a very interesting backstory of that his like he initially started working in the ship docks in Glasgow and stuff like this. So it's very interesting. If you don't like football, I wouldn't read it, but it's still good. And then my next one is Fatherland by Robert Harris. As Sophie said, we've read the Dan Brown books, and Fatherland's sort of like another if the Germans had won the war, what would it be like sort of situation.
Right, those historical fiction what if takes.
What ifs, and they're kind of holiday books as such, but I think you've got to kind of have a holiday book on your list, haven't you? So
Robert Harris is pretty. He did like Pompeii and stuff as well. He's quite. Of course, a well-respected historical.
Yeah, if you're sat by the pool and you want something to read, it's not too bad. And then the two slightly like left wing, is that the right term? I don't know. Right wing, not right wing. Is Gordon Ramsay's 100 recipes.
Oh.
So it's an off the shelf because it's a cookery book. It's 100 recipes that are Gordon Ramsay's. There's a TV series that accompanies it, but the recipes are really good, and I love Gordon Ramsay. And
they'll know Gordon Ramsay as well, won't they?
Everyone knows Gordon Ramsay.
We've seen Gordon Ramsay in real life.
Have you?
And
we were walking through Caesar's Palace
Oh my
toward
gosh!
the buffet, and he walked past the other way. He's very short.
Yeah, you find like celebrities are in real life, don't you?
Yeah, I was surprised. Like, he's not that much taller than Shelby.
Oh wow,
I was
really
like,
short.
That's it.
Yeah, but he like looks as intense as he looks on TV, like just walking around.
So you didn't say hello? Hello, Mr. Ramsay.
No.
Can I have your autograph, please?
He looked very busy.
I feel like he would have yelled at me.
He was having a conversation with his handler. This was when his new restaurant that's right there was just about to open, or was like in the process of something. So we assumed that's why he was there, because it's been a while ago. But yeah,
he's like got this really fearsome. I mean, you see him like on the Kitchen Nightmares when he's like just screaming at people, and you kind of forget that he's actually a really, really good cook. He's a incredible
he's
chef.
also a genuinely really nice guy. If you've ever seen him interact with like the kids,
It's my favorite.
because there's like a Top Chef Kids or something that he does. And
I love that. Like, there's like memes of Gordon Ramsay with kids,
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay with adults.
Yeah,
I am looking
it's
this up
like
now.
night and day. He's a completely different person.
It'll be like him with kids. He's like, I'm not leaving until you give me a smile, and then right next to it's him like holding the two bread pieces between someone's head, and the lady's like, I'm an idiot sandwich.
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, it's just really good recipes. And he's very passionate, and I'm a passionate person. And he's passionate about food, and I like my food, and I'm passionate about it. So we're kind of both the same person.
Yeah,
and then,
basically.
And then the last one is an atlas of the world.
Oh my goodness.
Because
I haven't
God.
seen an atlas in so long.
particularly
I'm
the
preparing
English
my
Oxford
eyes to roll back in my head.
atlas. Because I just love looking at maps, and I love looking at atlases, and I love looking at world facts. I love looking at geology of the world, etc., etc. And so that's why World Atlas makes my list. I do like, we have Ordnance Survey over in England. That's like our very detailed maps, and I do love looking at an Ordnance Survey map. I have just a sort of memory that I can look at a map and remember where I'm going.
Yeah, we
without
never get
looking at
lost.
directions.
You'll never ever get lost with Phil. One time in our entire relationship, he got lost, and we're not allowed to talk about it because he shouts at me. But it's the Edinburgh Ring Road for anyone wondering.
I feel like a British atlas would just be like, and this is a thing we used to own, and this is a thing we used to own.
It's awkward. Don't
and
ask.
this is a thing we should own.
World map, i.e., ex-Britain.
So yeah,
It
but
blows
I could spend an evening reading an atlas, so quite comfortably.
Solid.
It also blows my mind when you see when you go to other countries and then you see their world maps and you're like, oh, the UK isn't in the middle. Like, other countries put themselves in the middle of their maps, and it just blows my mind slightly. But yeah, did you ever see that?
America likes to make itself look even larger.
Yes.
Our maps are just the U.S. and then the rest of the world looks really tiny. Like it would all fit inside the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're way too
Not
big
really,
actually.
it's not that bad.
We're looking at a map on our wall right now, and we are way too big. We're like
And-
over half
and
the
they
size of
also,
Europe
like,
on that.
They bring Alaska over and make it this little tiny square, and it's
Yeah,
definitely not
Yeah,
tiny.
the proportions are always
And-
off. And they
and
always make it
Hawaii,
look like Hawaii's like right
really
next
close.
to
No, it's
California.
really
It's
far
like you
away.
can see it. No. But anyway,
Yeah, and that's why maps are cool, because they have interesting discussions, right?
yeah. So we're gonna skip Shelby because she can't read.
Wow, rude.
Just kidding.
Oh.
Illiteracy is not funny. But
Man,
go ahead.
I'm thinking about this now, and I'm like, oh, I should have put that other book on here. But anyway,
Should have put your map book.
well, I should have put that Star Wars super graphic on here
Really?
because I like that stuff. Like
Yeah, but
infographics are fun.
Oh, I
and it's like-
remember that. That was
Anyway.
a cool book.
I did not put that on here.
for a good reason.
Wow. My first one is Animal Farm, actually,
Oh, okay.
because I thought it was a good representation that I enjoy books that are, the classics that basically are kind of political satire, allegory stuff. And I really enjoy it. I mean, I know it's not like super highly complicated reading, but I remember reading it and thinking like, this is brilliant.
It is brilliant, I think. Like I love the way he uses stereotypes about animals.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, Animal Farm, and then I really like The Book Thief.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Okay, thank you, because Brian has not read it, so I don't think he understands how good that book is.
To me, I mean, any book that has like death as a character in it, like I'm sold. Big Terry Pratchett fan, and that was
So Death
Yeah.
Note.
It's a really good book. I don't know how to explain it without spoiling it.
Well, don't.
no.
Right? Do you agree with that, Sophie?
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah,
hard
no,
to...
it is a. But yeah, it's wonderful. It is a wonderful book.
And then I really loved, when I was younger, A Wrinkle in Time. I thought it was very... has like a sci-fi fantasy merger thing going on. I have not seen the newest movie.
I was gonna say, isn't it a movie now?
Yes, but I couldn't do it because I was afraid it wouldn't be as good as the book, and I couldn't do it.
It's weird too because it was a big to do, and then it kind of like it must not have done well because you didn't hear anything about it. Though I guess you didn't really hear it get panned either, which is
That's true. And then I do have a cookbook on mine, and it's raw vegan, not gross, because it's kind of an atypical vegan book, because it's, I don't know, it's comfort food that's vegan as well in there, and it kind of groups it by like how you would eat it.
you can't have comfort food that's not cooked. I'm sorry,
Gosh, well, some of it's
unless you're a rabbit.
a lot of the reason I like this book is because it reads kind of like a short story book, because each recipe has a short story with it of how it developed and how it integrates into her life and how it came into her life. So I really liked that aspect of it. She talks a lot about mental health in it, which was very interesting, and it's her connection with food and mental health, as well as just why you would want to share this with people, and how you can eat something that makes you feel good as well as just is good. So I really like that book. And then I had to have a Harry Potter book, and it is Prisoner of Azkaban. Because it's the best.
That's true. No arguments from anyone.
And
No.
you're right, Soph, about time travel. I never think of it as legitimate time travel. I usually hate time travel, but
Same,
it just makes sense. It's the most I don't know, time travel-y makes sense.
Well, it's because they add it, but they don't make it the center of things. Most of the time when you have time travel, it's like, look, time travel. And it's everything centers around that. This was just kind of like, it's an afterthought. How's Hermione always in every class? And then at the very end, they kind of like, oh yeah, she's doing this. Don't worry about it. It's a thing.
Do you know what? I was my mind was so blown at that twist because I was literally scratching my head the whole time. How is she in all her classes? I don't understand. And it was like, oh, she can go back in time. Just honestly, I fell for every single one of J.K. Rowling's red herrings in those books, and yeah, she just used to blow my mind. I cannot see twists, and I cannot see. You'll guess stuff that happens in like episodes and films and stuff, won't you? And it's like, I just don't see it, and I fall for it every time. And yeah, that was a majorly exciting reveal for me.
I think
the time turner.
If a book is engrossing enough, you're too busy going forward into the plot to think about things. So, like with a show or whatever, you can, especially if you're watching it like in real time, you have a week between episodes to think. If you're reading a book, you're going through it and you're like, oh, I wonder how that, if I keep reading, I'll figure it out. You don't really, for me anyway, that's kind of how
Yeah, I very much sort of put myself in. So, with Harry Potter, I was just so wrapped up in Harry's thoughts and the way he was thinking that, she makes you look at it from his perspective. Oh, Snape's evil, Snape's evil, Snape's evil, and then obviously, you just you get so caught up in his view that you don't sit back and be like, actually, let's look at this objectively, not through the eyes of a teenage boy. How is this all happening?
I look at everything through the eyes of a teenage boy. Since I have
it's more
yet
fun that
to,
way, isn't it?
grow up. Whoops. So I guess it's my turn, huh?
Yeah, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all Star Wars books, right?
The best for
The newer ones.
Oh. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Screaming
you got
Citadel's going to make the
You
list.
I listed every issue of the Screaming Citadel because it's the epitome of everything that's great about new Star Wars and how it takes risks, like hooking up Luke Skywalker to a machine that somehow sucks his force power out so that this weird witch lady can drink it. I mean, wow.
Okay.
Okay, no, I'm
did
done.
not know that that's what goes down in that.
It's dumb.
That
It's
comic.
really, really dumb. Anyway, enough about that forever.
We all know you're going to bring it up again.
I probably will.
I
Sorry.
know, that was my.
No,
I'm sorry, that was my fault as well. I
It's-
couldn't
It
help
is your
it.
fault,
Just-
Soph. I blame you.
It does. It just
opened
tickles
that can
me.
of worms. I had it tucked safely away. But anyway, I'm going to, for the first time, add to something that two people already did and put Prisoner of Azkaban. That's.
Woo!
I'm not even making it up. That's the first thing I wrote down. Freaking dogs. Along with you guys, I didn't think I could do a list of books and not include Harry Potter, and so I did the same thing that I've been doing and picked my favorite one. So, Azkaban for many of the reasons we have already discussed. Next, I put Jurassic Park because I love Michael Crichton, and I think this is, again, my favorite of his novels. It's again a very soft sci-fi where you have the world plus something. Let's see what happens. This time it's the world plus, hey, dinosaurs are back. Let's see what happens. Good stuff. Next up, I went with the greatest author of all time, Stephen King, and his triumph in the Dark Tower series, Wizard and Glass. I know, which you should have put on your list but didn't because you're terrible.
Well, yeah. What can I say? No, that's my favorite as well.
Yeah,
I think that's my favorite book of his that I've read as well. Maybe.
So good.
Yes, I think so.
I love when people in Stephen King stories tell stories. Like, it's so meta, but it's fabulous. It just it's Stephen King in a nutshell. All the man wants to do is tell you a story, and even when he's telling you a story, he comes up with a story to tell you while he's telling you a story. Like, it's crazy. But that book is fabulous. Getting the background on Roland, kind of why he is the character he is, good stuff. I'm gonna switch gears and come back to Stephen King because he my boy. But Flowers for Algernon is yet again another very soft sci-fi, real world. Plus, we figured out how to make less intelligent people more intelligent. What happens? Oops, doesn't work. But anyway, yeah, I've loved that story since I read it, and I think there's a short story version I read in junior high, and I immediately was like, I must read this novel, and then it's just been one of my favorite reads, and again fits into that aforementioned category really well. Killer book, highly recommend it. And last but not least, The Stand, because it's a giant epic of post-apocalyptic awesomeness, and I'm a big fan of that dystopia / post-apocalyptic narrative, and The Stand is one of the best ones in my humble opinion. So there you go, 5 really good books courtesy of.
Yeah, The Stand I haven't quite gotten around to. I've got it upstairs, but I haven't got around to picking it up yet. And I'm not normally put off by a big book either, but I was just like, oh,
it's a lot.
Huge.
It's a lot of.
Yeah.
He gets in the weeds sometimes, but I don't think it's to a detriment.
Uh-huh.
And that's my opinion, obviously. I think a lot of people think he is a bit too much, but he gets into like really talking about the characters and their motivations and like who they are, whereas a Tolkien gets really into telling you how the blades of grass are moving when the wind blows. That I don't like.
And then break into a song.
Yeah, like
it's like 3 pages long.
Yeah, some of that extra.
I like it, okay?
No, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, in my opinion, I don't like that kind of extra, but I do like the Stephen King kind of extra. Like, it doesn't bother me when all of a sudden I learn this story about a character that probably doesn't really add anything to the overall story, but I want to know it because I'm interested. So
I just find I'm a proper like mood reader as well, and sometimes like, you know, when I was reading Tolkien and I was really in the mood to read Tolkien, I absolutely loved it, and I just felt like I was going for a stroll through Middle Earth when the way he'd sort of set his scenes up, and it's the same with Stephen King. Like once I'm in the mood for him, it's just he's excellent. And you think, you know, Wizard and Glass is a huge book, and I didn't even notice. I just sort of like arrived at the end of the book and was like, oh,
is a long one.
No,
like,
I was just, I'm here. I finished. It's done.
The Stand, and I don't know. It kind of ties into the idea of the story. Like, these people are going on this epic journey of survival, and so are you, because you're going on an epic journey of reading a huge book.
Yeah.
But yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it all depends on like your fancy. I mean, I always think that's like quite a good thing with the. You know, with the New Jedi Order, like, it's 19 books, which sounds horrendously intimidating, and it is, but at the same time it's like, well, it's a war, and it's describing an entire war that goes on for years, so it kind of it all makes sense that you would have that amount, but you just got to be in the mood for these things, and sometimes you're just like, I don't fancy 18 books, I don't fancy taking that on, and other times you do.
Yeah, that's anything like that. It's kind of like what we've talked about before. The whole Doctor Who is probably something all of us would like, but it's just so massive and intimidating that it's just we'll maybe we'll do it one day.
Yeah. We'll become a Doctor Who podcast.
Low key.
Wouldn't that be wild?
Pods and Who. Anyway, but Pods and Ins, I think we'll take a break now and come back next week to finish up our other 3 categories, because we have talked your ears off and we don't want to be one of those 3-hour-long podcasts.
Agree.
So thanks for listening, everyone.
Soon.
Yeah. So Shelby, where can people go tell us their 5 things?
You can find us on social media at PNE_pod.
hit us up via email at contact@podsinins.com.
Or you can find our website, podsinins.com.
That's it. That's how it goes. So, for now, goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Ciao for now.
Bye.